Well, there's more good news, bad news out there for us slash the Republicans, and holy smokes, this is a good one. And I've been talking about this for a while, even while the we were going through the wailing and gnashing of teeth that happened in the April May zone, where people are like, I don't know if I'm inspired to vote because I
Yeah.
realize we're no longer in Afghanistan and spending $300 million a day in Afghanistan. I realize we passed the first infrastructure bill and the first gun regulations we've seen in 30 years. And I realize that the unemployment's been cut in half. And I realize that they're managing the vaccine rollout and making sure that people get boosted like adults, and they're taking care to minimize the effect on people who at least will participate in getting vaccinated. And I realize that they've cut the deficit in half, and and I realize that the president has spent more on climate change expenditures just in the rescue package than any other time in American history, much less the new bill that's going to come out. But I'm just not inspired to protect women's rights and gay rights and stuff until you realize they're in a guillotine, and the draft version of the Roe v. Wade killer bill, killer law,
Hmm.
comes out, and it's not even as bad, as horrifying as it was, and people started to wake up to the real threat that was going on there. Because again, this is all about the rights you take for granted that
Yep.
Democrats have secured you, and Republicans spend every waking minute trying to get rid of. Let me state this again.
Yep.
Rick Scott has stated that the official platform of the Republican Party is to sunset all social programs, to sunset the Department of Education, to sunset Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Forget Medicare for all. Every 5 years, Medicare for nobody. And all they have to do, they don't even need the votes to stop it. They can just filibuster it till it's gone. And
Mm.
believe me, they think if they got control over that part of it, they'll be able to squeeze it down and down and down until it's worthless. That whole thing about shrinking the government down so small you could drown it in a bathtub, that idea,
Yeah.
that's your social programs you're talking about. That's Social Security they are talking about. They're not talking about the military. I mean, they're talking about veterans benefits, but they're not talking about, the expenditures for planes, tanks, guns, and ammo. They're talking about S-chip. They're talking about the Department of Education. That's what they're talking about. They're even talking about the
We've
Department of
got our
Transportation.
fundraising is going very well. We've got
Oh my
Carol
goodness.
Cobb, Electric Outcast,
Oh my gosh. Thank you
DC
guys.
2257. You guys are crazy.
Thank you so much for supporting the show. And Patty Ann in Sweden, but you're wearing lederhosen. Um, that's a Trading Places
Poor
joke.
Penny Ann.
Yeah, no, she understands. And by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe, support the show. If you can't, afford to super chat or something like that, subscribing is a great way. We cleared the 38,000 mark. We're on our way to
That's unreal.
40,000. Right? It's very exciting. We're very proud. I've got something planned for the 100,000, and it may involve mild nudity, but I'm not. I'm just I'm not trying to pressure anybody. So,
Or head shaving.
oh right, no, that would drive the numbers
Aw.
down. I'm going to manscape on my only house. So, anyways, I'm kidding. The one of the stories about this, one of the effects of the Roe v. Wade attack, and by the way, that when that final version came out, before I was distracted by the wonderfulness and the support of the people in our chat room,
Yes.
the big thing that came out in the actual opinion was Clarence Thomas's idea that anything that was achieved through a Supreme Court case that involved due process, gone. That we got to rethink all those sodomy laws, same-sex relationships, same-sex marriage, like contraceptives, everything, suffrage. None of it, if it's not guaranteed in the original draft. And a lot of people have been talking about him and Ginny Thomas and the idea that this might go back to, anti-miscegenation laws and the like, which, by the way, would save him a lot of divorce money, I suppose. Maybe that's the plan. Maybe this is just, we're all just caught up in the Clarence Thomas family drama. But that whole thing, and Hype Train, when that came out, it was so much worse that I think people recognized, oh, okay, this is more serious than I
Yep.
was recognizing. Not
So
because
just saying the whole thing is rigged isn't really a plan.
no, it is not. And while I had always thought from, for the last year that this talk of, Republicans taking a bunch of seats as if this time in history is normal, doesn't apply. Everybody's trying to use the same rules economically, politically, that you've seen in previous years that weren't preceded by a giant worldwide pandemic at the center of things. It's just not the same response. That's why they're saying right now we're not technically in a recession, because the job growth is booming. The stock market is still going up. The bond market is still responding as if there's growth still to be had in the economy. And yet we're tightening, but the tightening is more related to the enormous tightening outside the country as supply chains shrink, shorten, or disappear, and we get ourselves off of reliance on China and other sources. And that is going to be expensive, which will drop profits, which will shrink the GDP of the country, but not because there's a lack of economic activity, which is what a recession is all about. So that's where we are. That's the real, that's the reality base. That's, in the MCU, that's Earth 213 or whatever. And in this, one of the things that I've been saying is that Trump himself is going to drive people away from the polls again. He cannot let it go. He can
On the election thing?
Yeah. Every single one of these things where he tries to come out and support a local person, he's still got a gripe about the election being rigged, and nothing has changed since then. The people who are going to be voting in the midterms this year are using the same machines and the same setup they voted with in 2020. And a lot of them know that. We don't care because we're grown-ups. But his followers, the MAGA faithful, those folks are not going anywhere. They're not going to use those machines. They're not going to, half of them aren't going to re-register to vote if they get kicked off, if they move or any of that kind of stuff. If they don't trust the system. I mean, they're one off-ramp away from living like Ted Kaczynski. And so, of course, they're not going to keep up their citizen appearances at the very least. And then you find out that the impact of the Roe v. Wade, and by the way, this is a news story from 2 days ago. So this does not include the response to the scuttling of the PACT Act. This is from Daily Kos, but it's referencing a story in the New York Times. Republicans confront massive drop-off in online fundraising. It's hard to know if it's just Republicans' terribly subpar candidates or the foul smell wafting through the GOP more generally, but whatever the reason, the party's online fundraising has hit a wall, according to the New York Times. While donations typically ramp up as election draws nearer, exactly the opposite has happened. A Times analysis of the GOP grassroots fundraising platform WinRed found that a 12% decrease from first to second quarter in the total amount donated to all federal Republican campaigns. Now, what happened first quarter to second quarter? What happened in the second quarter and after Johnny Million that might have made people who leaned Republican stop giving them money? The draft opinion of the Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
Okay, that was
They caught the car. The dog caught the car.
That's right. And nobody actually wanted them to do it. And
no,
again,
no one wanted the car.
No. Let's take a break. When we come back right after this, part of it's funny that the money is going down. The other part, the funniest part to me, is where it's going instead. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's Arby's?
Arby's.
All right,
he's the curly fries.
Start a poll. Yeah, we'll start a poll. It is curly fries.